Welcome to Agoracom Small Cap Breaking News, your daily go-to source for the best small cap headlines for over 65 million investors since 2007.
Today, we're really zeroing in, giving you the critical details, the numbers, the results that could actually move the needle for your investments.
Exactly. No fluff today. We're diving straight into those high-impact results, the kind of stuff that makes you sit up and take notice.
That's the plan. We've gone through the latest announcements, looking for those key figures, the strategic points that really deserve a closer look. So let's get right into it.
Okay, first one up. This is out of Mexico. We've got Fuerte Metals Corporation. That's TSXV Venture, FMT, and OTCQB, FUEMF.
Right.
Headline: Fuerte Metals strikes high-grade gold in Mexico, boosting potential for dual mining strategy. So if you're thinking about digging deeper here, what should really jump out?
Well, with Fuerte Metals, that's FMT and FUEMF, right?
Yeah.
The compelling stuff is kind of twofold. They reported what they called strong intercepts at the Cristina Project. One highlight was a pretty high-grade hit, 10.3 grams per ton over 2.4 meters.
Wow. Okay, 10.3 over 2.4 meters. That's a solid grade.
It really is. That kind of grade, it can point towards potentially very profitable, maybe smaller scale, but profitable mining.
Right.
But, and this is important too, they also hit a notably broad 0.7 grams per ton over 95 meters.
95 meters, that's wide.
Exactly. And that suggests the potential for a large near-surface deposit, something you can maybe tackle with lower-cost open-pit mining, big volume.
So it's that combination then, the high-grade potential maybe underground and the bulk tonnage near surface, that dual mining strategy they mentioned.
That's what makes it intriguing, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got options. And Tim Moorman, he's the CEO, he actually highlighted this in the release.
What did he say?
He basically said almost every hole drilled at Los Ingleses has encountered wide, shallow, lower-grade zones with narrower, high-grade sections, perfect candidates for open-pit mining.
Okay, makes sense.
And then he adds, these zones also suggest high-grade continuity at depth, opening the door to underground development. So it covers both angles.
That optionality really does seem key there, having both possibilities on the table.
Absolutely. And I think the market's going to be watching pretty closely for their significant resource update, which they said is coming later this year.
Right, to see how these drill holes actually translate into tons and grade.
Exactly. Could be a big catalyst for them.
Okay, next let's head over to Ghana. Galiano Gold Inc. Tickers are GAU on the TSX and also GAU on the NYSE American.
Galiano, right.
Headline: Galiano Gold strikes new high-grade zone at Abore, Ghana, signaling underground expansion potential. What are the crucial numbers here?
Okay, Galiano Gold, so GAU. The standout result, the one that really catches your eye, is a standout drill intercept of 50 meters at 3.2 grams per ton gold.
50 meters, that's a long intercept at over 3 grams.
Yeah, continuous section that long with that kind of grade. It definitely points towards a potentially, substantial ore body. And there was more. They also hit a very high-grade zone. Get this, 34 meters at 12.0 grams per ton gold.
12 grams. Wow. Where was that located?
Started at a depth of 192 meters downhole. So it's deeper, which strongly suggests, like the headline says, potential for a significant high-value underground resource.
Right, that underground expansion potential they talk about. This is at their main asset, the Asanko Gold Mine.
Correct. And the president and CEO, Matt Badylak, he commented on this, said something like, these results at Abore validate the robust mineralization within our current open pit reserve.
So confirming what they already thought was there.
Yeah, but also while demonstrating strong potential for transitioning to a higher grade underground operation.
So for a mine that's already operating, finding stuff like this can really, extend the mine life, maybe improve the economics significantly.
That's exactly it. Discoveries like this, high-grade extensions, they can seriously de-risk future production and potentially, lower their overall costs. Big deal for an existing operation.
Definitely. Okay, shifting gears a bit now. Quantum BioPharma Ltd. Tickers are QNTM on the CSE and NASDAQ and 0K91 over in Frankfurt.
Quantum BioPharma, right. Different kind of news here.
Yeah, the headline. Quantum BioPharma files $700 million market manipulation lawsuit against major banks. No, obviously not operational news. But that dollar figure, that's huge. It suggests this could be material. What are the key details?
Well, you said it. The headline figure itself, $700 million market manipulation lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's what grabs you immediately for Quantum BioPharma, QNTM.
Yeah.
The core allegation is systematic spoofing to depress stock price.
Yeah.
And they're pointing fingers at some major banks, CIBC, RBC, and some others unnamed.
And over what time frame?
A pretty long one, actually. They allege this happened between January 2020 and August 2024, so over 4.5 years.
And Quantum BioPharma, just for context, they're focused on novel treatments for neurodegenerative and metabolic disorders, right? Their main thing is lucid MS.
That's right. So you can see how, if their allegations are true, a depressed stock price could really hurt their ability to fund that kind of important R&D work.
Yeah, raising capital is key in biotech. So the implication is this alleged manipulation costs them and their investors over $700 million.
That's what the lawsuit is claiming, yes. Now, obviously, these things are complex. Legal battles take time. Outcomes are never certain.
Sure.
But the sheer size of the lawsuit, that $700 million figure, it definitely indicates how strongly the company feels about this and, the potential financial impact one way or the other down the road.
Interesting. Okay, let's swing back to mining. Revival Gold Inc., TSXV, RVG, and OTCQX.
RVLGF.
Revival Gold, yeah, back in the U.S.
Right. They announced a promising preliminary economic assessment for Merkur Project, underscoring U.S. gold mining resurgence. A PEA, that's always an important early look for investors at a project's potential economics. What stood out in Revival's numbers?
Okay, so for Revival Gold RVG and RVLGF, the PEA for their Merkur project, it projects a $295 million after-tax NTV. That's net present value. And that's using, what, gold price assumption?
They used $2,175 per ounce gold for that base case. And NPV, as you know, is that key metric. It basically estimates the project's value today, considering all future cash flows.
Right. And what about production scale?
The assessment forecasts an average annual production of 95,600 ounces of gold annually, and that's over a projected 10-year mine life. So potentially quite a decent-sized operation.
Almost 100,000 ounces a year.
Okay.
And how does it look if gold prices are higher? That sensitivity is always interesting.
It's pretty significant here. That $295 million NPV, it more than doubles, actually jumps up to $752 million at $3,000 per ounce gold.
Wow. Okay. So nice leverage to a rising gold price.
Definitely. And another compelling aspect they highlighted was the payback period.
How quick?
Pretty rapid. 3.6 years at 2,175 ounces gold, and obviously even faster if gold stays higher.
Yeah, under 4 years is attractive. Investors like to see that quicker return of capital.
Exactly. A shorter payback usually means lower risk, faster returns.
Right.
So yeah, this PEA, it definitely paints a potentially attractive picture for the Merkur project.
Okay, good summary. Next, TriStar Gold Inc. Tickers are TSG on the TSXV and TSGZF on the OTCQB.
TriStar, right. Another gold story, this one in Brazil.
They also put out an update on project economics. Headline, TriStar Gold updates Castelo de Sonos economics with 603 IM NPV and 40% IRR amid soaring gold prices.
Those look like some pretty strong numbers right off the bat.
They really are. So TriStar Gold, TSG, and TSGZF, their updated economics for Castelo de Sonos, they're showing an after-tax net present value using a 5% discount rate of US $603 million.
Okay.
And an internal rate of return, IRR, of 40%, and that's at their base case gold price of US $2,200 per ounce.
A 40% IRR is very solid. That's a measure of investment efficiency, right?
It is. And what's really striking here, again, is the upside leverage. At a higher gold price, say $3,200 per ounce, the NTV jumps to US $1.35 billion, billion with a B.
Oh.
And the IRR goes up to 72%. 72% IRR. That's exceptional. Really highlights the potential in a strong gold market.
It absolutely does. And another positive point for them, they mentioned receiving a positive legal opinion, reaffirming the validity of its operating permits.
Ah, okay. So that helps de-risk things on the regulatory side?
Exactly. Reduces that uncertainty. And one more number that stood out. The payback period.
How does it compare to Revival's?
Even shorter. Short after-tax payback period, 2 years, at their base case of $2,200 gold.
2 years. Wow, that's very appealing for potential investors. Quick return.
Absolutely. So you put together these updated economics, the permitting clarity, that quick payback. It makes TriStar Gold a development story that definitely warrants a closer look, especially if you're bullish on gold prices.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, let's talk copper. Asanko Metals Incorporated, TSXV, OM, OTCQX, OMZNF, and 0B51 in Frankfurt.
Asanko Metals, right, up in Quebec.
News from their Gaspé project. Asanko Metals uncovers major copper intersections at Gaspé project, expanding Quebec's largest undeveloped copper deposit. Now, with copper demand looking strong, these results could be quite important.
Copper is definitely a hot topic. For Asanko Metals OM, OMZNF, the key thing here is really the scale of the copper.
Like what?
Well, they reported a really standout intercept, 323-meter intersection averaging 0.43% copper and 3.18 grams per ton silver.
323 meters, that's a massive interval.
It is. An intersection that long, even at that grade, it suggests a very, very substantial mineralized zone.
Okay. Any other highlights?
Yeah, they also hit 136.8 meters averaging 0.32% copper and 3.18 grams per ton silver. What's significant about that one is where it was.
Where?
It was 215 meters south of the 2024 resource model.
Ah, so stepping out, potentially expanding the known deposit area.
Exactly. It indicates that the deposit is actually bigger than they previously had modeled, both southward and potentially deeper too.
So it's not just confirming the grade, it's really about the potential for a much larger overall resource, reinforcing Gaspé as a major undeveloped copper asset.
That's the key takeaway. And the CEO, Robert Wares, his quote, really emphasizes this growth potential.
What did he say?
He said, we've now added mineralization well below known horizons, and hole 30-1067 demonstrates strong potential to push the deposit further south. And then he concludes, we're only just beginning to tap into the full scope of this system.
Okay, only just beginning.
That sounds promising for future exploration there.
It really does. You know, in a market where finding new large-scale copper deposits is getting harder and harder, and demand is projected to keep rising, these results from Asanko Metals, they really highlight a project with considerable expansion potential in a great jurisdiction.
All right, so that was a pretty rapid-fire rundown, but hopefully it gave you a sense of some potentially significant developments across these 6 small-cap companies. Yeah, we tried to pull out those specific financial results, the key drill numbers, the strategic points that might, make you want to go do your own homework.
These are really the initial data points, the kinds of numbers and news that can signal real potential might be there, but it's just a start.
Absolutely. This quick dive is really just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
We definitely encourage you, the listener, to head over to Agoracom, check out the full press releases for yourself, and, crucially, conduct your own due diligence.
Understand the risks, assess the potential rewards, see if it fits your own investment approach. That's critical.
Always.
So, thinking about all this, we've got strong gold results, major copper expansion potential, even a massive lawsuit shaking things up. It raises some interesting questions, doesn't it?
It does. Like, with gold and copper markets doing what they're doing, which of these companies seems best positioned right now? Or maybe, what are the next key milestones you should be watching for from each of them?
Or even, how does something like Quantum's lawsuit potentially impact investor sentiment? Not just for them, but maybe more broadly in the small cap space. Lots to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
For access to all these press releases we discussed today, and, of course, much more small cap breaking news, stay connected with Agoracom.